Boom, 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 boom. Here we are. It's a Friday. It's the BetaSaaSers AutoGrader meeting, and there's a strange sort of hissing in the background that I started. But anyway, there we go. That's can everybody else hear that kind of slight?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I hear it.
Yeah, that seemed to come on when I started the broadcast. Oh well.
Yeah.
Anyway, so let's go through the outstanding action items from previous. We've got the ongoing, lack of consistency of graders and so on. I do hope actually in the next run, this next run of the MOOC, I'm devoting a lot of time to try and see if we can increase the level of consistency. So when it comes into the full or your next courses, you can let me know whether consistency has increased. I made issues for some of the things that we had there. Richard, I guess I was going to say about us looking at the workflow needs. If you have some time after this meeting, perhaps you and I can spend some time looking at some workflow on docs. Yeah, so orphaned migration, that's now been merged in. That was Rose's issue. This is about Sam and Richard finding a time. Do you have much time today, Richard, or are you going to rush off at the end? Richard is muted.
Okay. Okay. Well, you didn't hear my cursing when I realized I had muted, just to make sure I wasn't the source of the buzz. It's mixed. Mixed today. My son is it's a moving day.
Okay. Well,
and so unclear. Like I'm sort of on call, but
yeah.
unclear. But I'll have a few minutes. We can talk about at least.
Yeah, we'll see how we go. Good show. Now that you're unmuted, the sound seems to have gone. So I think it's clearly God has spoken and said Richard should not be muted.
I agree.
Well, I think we all do. The next item here is 1.21 watermarked copies were made for Rose, Janet, and Richard last Friday and distributed to you. And how were they? There's a thumb up.
Yeah, they were good. I read through it sort of reasonably carefully. I found, mostly good. A couple of maybe minor typos.
Yeah.
But it worked. And you gave the whole thing, so I only looked at my chapter 8.
Yes. I thought you might as well have the whole thing.
Yep.
Yes, and yeah, so great. That's done. I did speak to Armando. He hadn't actually pushed the stuff out to Amazon when we were speaking last week. He has pushed it, but it still hasn't arrived at Amazon. So that's the state of that. Yeah, so the thing we were talking about last week, which is stubs and mocks not supported, Armando responded instantly to that and said, yes, that's a problem. I will fix that immediately. So we added the disclaimer about, the code being variable, that's added as an issue on the textbook repo. I made the instructor resources repo private. So everyone should feel free to put whatever stuff they want in there, so that the homework 3 PDF walkthrough can stay there. Rose, did you find your homework 4 walkthrough? Did you have one?
Actually, I didn't get a chance to do that. Last week I found out that I had a crack in my engine block, so I'm back to not having a car, and I'm like going nuts trying to, just figure out whether I should get a new car, get a used car, lease a car. I mean, I have to do something, and so all my time has been eaten up by.
Oh dear. Right.
It's kind of hard. The best part, best part is they discovered this after I just put $2,500 into repairing the car.
Oh dear. That is sod's law, as we say in the UK. So I guess the homework 4 walkthrough is something that you had been thinking about creating, but haven't yet created.
I have it. I have to find it and perhaps polish it a little bit.
Okay.
I have it. In fact, it's like very step by step. Very do a test, make it fail, write some code, make it pass. I mean, it's really very detailed.
Great. Well, we'll look forward to that whenever it's available.
Is that a video? Is that a video or a document?
It's a document. Okay. It's a document.
And do you remember the thing that I sent to you previously, Rose, about how it's possible to make that document kind of in Markdown so that it's sort of more maintainable? Did you remember?
Right. Well, that's pretty much why I haven't submitted it yet, because I want to like, where did I put that? But I want to go over the document that I produced and bring in the stuff that you said, and
Oh, okay.
do
well,
something.
I would say feel free to put up whatever you have, and then we could collaboratively do that rather than that being all on you. So.
Oh, that'd be fine. That'd be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there is some chance I might even be interested in contributing to that in the short term, depending on my time window.
Yeah.
So we'll put that in like we'll put an action item there for Rose, which is put up draft of homework 4 walkthrough, and then we can all collaborate.
So should I just kind of take what I have now and throw it up there?
Totally.
Okay.
Totally. Yeah.
All right.
I mean that's what I'm. Go on.
Yeah, and this is in that new private repository.
Yeah, and don't worry about where you put it. I mean, just put it somewhere, and then we'll, move it around. I mean, and this is it's interesting. I have this kind of ongoing battle with many students of trying to convince them just to like share the code that they have, so that we can. But they're like, no, it's not finished. It's not perfect. And I'm like, I know, I don't care. Show it to me now, and then I will help you incrementally improve it. That's what we call agile development. But anyway, sorry. Yes, right. So onto the main agenda items. The MOOC. The MOOC looms large. The new version of the MOOC is coming up on May 24th. I say that it's like so close that we're starting the new version of the AV102. Actually, I should post to you guys the link for the AV102, which I should have to hand. Very close. Do I? Do I have it to hand? Yes, I do. This is it. Here we go. So this is like it's sort of basically 4 weeks. I've kind of extended it to make it 5 weeks with a week 0. But yes, come here, you. Here it is. Yes. So this is a free course. It's you can get like these certificates. It's sort of a collaboration between Armando and Dave's publishing company and Agile Ventures. And so we've got myself and Thomas and Joao and Raul and various people, and it's sort of kind of like we're trying to like tell people all about how to use Hangouts and how to be TAs and how to get involved in open source Agile Ventures stuff and so on. So if you've got people who you can almost see this as kind of like almost a part 3 of the like with the project focus of the 169, although not quite. But that's free and open, and anybody who wants to take that. It's potentially you could be using it to help train your TAs for your courses and so on. So feel free to use that as a resource. I'm re-recording, as I say, all the videos this time to try and improve the quality and so on. But anyway, up to date. So that's what I'm working on at the moment. I mentioned already the book. Yes, so we hope to have the Amazon to respond to that. I am seeing Armando. It's in about 10 days now, and I so hope I can convince him to go to a Git book. We will see.
Fantastic.
So let's go into Richard. Note question: Homework 4 setup. Most students needed to do a rake DB test prepare, but Richard Ilson did not. But the rake DB test prepare is not supposed to be needed anymore. Whenever I run it on our more recent Rails projects, it's like you get a message that pops up and says I think they're not needed in Rails 4.
Oh, really?
Yeah, if I for example, if I go to a random, let's go to a random Rails project. Oh, here's one, and I run rake DB test prepare. Will it tell me something like? It'll be really slow. I guess it's rake. There we go, and yeah, we'll get this warning here.
Can I see that again?
Because I've been seeing that, and I'm like, I wonder what this is.
Yeah.
Go on,
actually, I've seen this too while setting up the website for project.
Yeah.
Well, right. And you understand my question was like 100% the opposite.
Well, was that it seemed like some people did need to do it, but that you didn't. And I think that whether you need to do it or not will depend partly on the sequence of you actually setting up, in which, like, in principle, if you have, you've done, like, rake DB create, but done it with Rails env equals test, then, in principle, you wouldn't need to do.
Yeah, and I'll just tell you, maybe it's just too squirrely, but But what happened is I went from what I thought was a relatively fresh Cloud9 environment set up according to, for the course, and I tested it the night before, followed the instructions in Homework 4, set up exactly. Everything was fine and dandy. I came in the next morning, and all my students, basically, they got an error doing the same thing when they tried to run Cucumber, and this, we figured out that that was the solution. So for me, it was more like, why when I thought I was in the same environment.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, it's the kind of thing that I might expect to see, like, if they had been on a slightly different version of Rails.
Right. So the best theory, unless someone either updated the Homework 4 repo, like in that time, which sort of almost happened. It looked like Armando updated it, but it was in the time frame when I would have gotten those updates. Or else there was something that my students did that I hadn't done during the semester, like in doing one of the other homeworks. It was just,
they were all working on C9, and they checked out this repo.
Exactly.
Yeah, and so we have. Yeah, I mean, here these are all on Rails 4.2.1. Yeah, that does seem quite odd.
Yeah, and it was, it's just like I said, it was hours difference, and it would have been the kind of thing if I hadn't literally done it myself and even double checked, and I brought up. Sometimes Cloud9 wipes away your history, but it had my history, and I could see exactly the commands, and that I didn't, It was just odd, but it wasn't worth an email.
No, well, and I think the thing that the thing for this kind of stuff, and it's the kind of thing that students, I think, can often get quite sort of like, oh, that's just like so unfair. I guess there are teenagers often as well, but anyway, I think the response is yes, life is not fair. It doesn't seem so surprising to me. Just there's kind of, I mean, I find that I'm not precisely sure what DB Test Prepare is supposed to do, to be honest. Like I'm not. I mean, I know it's like something to do with test the database and preparing, but I haven't, myself tracked it through the system to be like, what is it actually very specifically doing, and why is it now no longer needed?
We looked at it a little bit. I think it makes a copy of your database, and creating the test database.
Yeah.
Because we had issues. You can also run a DB migrate with this sort of test environment, or this environment variable text, which sort of does the same thing. So it does. We were trying to figure out it doesn't exactly run the migrate, but it copies the database. Anyway, we resolved it. It actually was less. My students were sort of fine with it. I was the one that was bummed out. I was like, I just did this.
These instructors, they're just like so. The students are relaxed and the instructors are so uptight. Yes. Okay. Yes. All that's
anyway. Not worth.
No. But good to hear the students were okay about it. I mean, I think I have read this is. I see that I have clicked on and read this one before. I'm just trying to get to they're talking about it being. They're saying that we're supposed to be. There's supposed to be a thing here about. This is where I don't know. Not sure. Anyway, yeah, as I say. So. But yes, in principle, moving forward, it shouldn't be needed. So, Richard, anyone have any thoughts about the time Sinatra Hangman requires?
That's an old question. I mentioned last time I'm thinking of throwing it in at the end. I will work through it myself before I do that, and I knew there was unclarity about it, but I was also just, this has just helped me in my mindset, if anyone knows that.
Do you mean time like for preparation on the part of the instructor, or how much time?
No, time on the students, to work through it. Is it like an hour or two kind of thing, or is it like a 5 or 6 hour assignment?
Janet, Rose, what do you think from your?
It's not very hard as long as you understand the directions. The lack of unambiguous directions can send you down a rabbit hole, and but I found that it otherwise was pretty straightforward.
Okay, so but
it's a different way for the students to work, since they have to sort of look at what the tests are doing and figure out how to write the code from that.
Okay.
I mean, none of these, most of these aren't a lot of code, right? I mean, if you look at, say, homework 2, which is the one that my students always find to be the most, brutal homework they've ever seen, the actual code they write is pretty short.
Yeah.
Homework 1, I think, is actually more code they have to write than homework 2.
Yes. Yes.
And I would definitely put it more in the 5 or 6 or even more than the 1 or 2.
Okay, that's helpful because and no one's yelling about that. That helps me a lot just to in my mind.
Yeah,
So
I mean, I remember I sat down and started on this, and it definitely took like 2 hours just to get through about a third of it. Was my experience.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. I would like to add. I would like to throw something in at the end, but I have to be careful. I don't have too much time. One of my odd things is I'm teaching 2 sections. One section has 2 more class meetings. The other section only has 1 more, and I just realized that, and so I have to be careful in what I assign.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we can move. Thanks.
Yeah, and then locating the reference solution for homework 4. Yeah, in principle, that should be in, and I'm just looking for it in a different window.
And I saw what happened is I found a couple of tar files that looked a little bit old. I didn't actually go in and look at check the contents of them because I didn't need to. But there was actually I couldn't find any actual uncompressed code or even a zip file, which is what the current AutoGrader requires.
Yeah.
So.
Yes, well, I mean, I think the closest this was the old CI thing that has. So this is maybe what you found.
Yeah, and you see how it says 2 years. So I figured, maybe that's.
Yeah, well, absolutely, and I think yeah. So we've got the Berkeley TAs created this thing here. Oh, right, but so yeah, that I guess that's the old solution. Old solution is there. Yeah, you can find I'm just remembering where the new solution is. You can find the new solution if we go to here and we go into features and we go into support, and then we have homework 4 zip there.
Wow. 8 months ago. Okay. I thought I tried even to search for zip files. I thought so there might even be an actual zip file there. I really thought I looked for that.
I believe so. Yeah, and of course it is in entirely the wrong place, and my sincere apologies for that. Yeah,
I tried to do a search through the entire thing, and maybe
well,
I was.
I've gone to a completely different repo there in order to look. So
yeah,
so I wouldn't expect you to find that there. It's not discoverable there. Ironically, it just shouldn't be there. It's the wrong place for it to be, based on all of everything that we've done previously. Have I now lost the here? But so what it is that where it should be is it should be homework. It should be based on where things it should be here, and it's not here. And where it is there's a load of stuff in here.
Yeah.
And
I'm aware of that. But it is under SaaSbook.
It is on the SaaSbook, yes. I guess.
Yeah. And I mean, at one point I tried to do a really global search, but I might not have. The stars might not have aligned for exactly what I was doing for where. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Okay.
It was just I was just curiosity. I was like, it was one more data point, and then I spent a bunch of time looking for it. And I was like,
I think it's the kind of thing. It comes back to what I'm hoping is that by the end of the next run. Well, that's a kind of like a basic inconsistency that I would hope to fix by the end of the next run. So yes, no badness on your part. It's only the fact that I'm like a what's the word now? I'm a SaaSbook hack that I know where these things are. So we had this loss of critical thinking in the education system. I think that was just from our general. We'll put that as an action item for all of us to fix the loss of critical thinking in the education system. That's we'll do that by next week. Going on, so Rose, you had some items here which are the best way to explain the use of the @ in expressions like this. And you're right that Rose, that it's a block. I guess the other thing that I would say is there's sort of an equivalence that in Ruby this is identical to the method toProc. Like this.
Okay, yeah. That I was trying to remember what that was, and that's it. To proc.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then if you have ampersand as we do there, like text, what that means is that that's, as you know, that basically automatically turns it into
a block.
like this.
So then that the expansion is just to take that and whatever.
Yeah, I mean you could
Yeah.
replace this with
Yeah.
I believe
You should be able to,
you
right?
could do this,
To proc. Yeah. Okay.
and it's just yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. That I
Yeah.
think makes it crystal clear.
Great.
But I mean, I could also just save the first result and then do it the whole thing in a block, but it'd be kind of wordy and lengthy and
Yes.
not as clean. I mean, this is nice.
Yes, I mean, I think it's an interesting question here about the Ruby-ishness of this and making it. I mean, clearly
it seems very idiomatic Ruby.
Yeah, when you've got something like this, there is sort of an implicit redundancy that you only need the shorthand of the actual method call. You don't need to be if you're not doing anything fancy. Who needs the referent to the thing that you have to be calling on? So cool, we've done that one. Legacy homework. So yes. Now, I typed that out when you described it. Yeah, I mean, the kind of thing it makes me think of is the strong parameters thing that would basically, if you're trying to create a category, then you need to kind of have a. I mean, it's the thing is, I think that legacy homework is still. It's locked to like Rails 3, isn't it?
Yeah, I believe so.
If we actually got that in as a legacy thing, can we see the?
I believe so.
Yeah, I pulled them out into those other. There we go. That's the actual thing there, and right, because it then points to typo, right? Yes, which is still the old stuff there, and so. For creating a new category, and this this is like creating a new category through a categories controller, or no, just creating it from
it's in the admin categories controller. Yeah, under admin, and then you go categories controller, and then the error is that it handles edits, updates, but it doesn't handle new categories,
right?
Because it's trying to find an ID for something that doesn't exist yet. So let me actually. I have a little. I don't know if you want to look at my screen.
What I would say for this maybe is like kind of. I think in order to get into this, I would kind of it would be great to kind of almost have a ticket on the thing that sort of pointed to the code. Like we can kind of look through the code there, but I have a feeling that it might take us. And maybe this is we haven't got so many other gender items. Maybe we can dive into this. I mean, you're showing me some code there.
Yeah, can you see it? Can you see it? Okay, so here originally you're just looking for the ID and it's going to crash. So if you divide it up into looking for it to checking is the ID nil, then you can go ahead and create it. But we noticed that unless you put this here, right?
Right.
I mean, there is no category in the params hash. You can put some instrumentation in and see it doesn't exist.
Right.
And if you put some instrumentation in to see what is the value of params category, it's nil. All right. So why is it that it fails unless you have this in there? And it just seems very mysterious. Notice you have to have it for updating the attributes, right? And that makes sense because you would have had you would have passed that in, right? But in this case, there's nothing being passed in.
But you're saying that in the code that you've got highlighted there, like I mean, if you just removed the word params category there, like if you just deleted that, do you need to have params category there, or can you just delete it and it would?
That's the point. That's the point. You would think that for new, you would just not have any arguments, right? Just category new. But if you try that, it'll fail. And the failure indicates that there's no value on validation for, various, well, it picks the name first, right? Well, it's not there. Well, of course it's not there. It doesn't exist yet.
Right. So this is when you're trying to. So if we have a look at on my screen on the models.
Right.
So this is the thing. There is that I was getting into the Rails console and trying to create categories. So if we look at the category here, then I want to be exploring what's up. So we've got these like validate present, but new shouldn't be a problem. I mean, I guess if I just, for example, if I grab. I can just grab, let's have another window. Yeah.
I've got it up in Cloud 9, by the way.
Yeah. Well, you could open a Rails console there, and we could play with the things, which might be faster.
Yeah, actually, Marvin, do you have it on your Cloud 9? Marvin.
Let me take a look. Hold on.
Yeah, I asked you because I'm not sure I have all the others set up for this one.
Yeah, I mean it'll take me a little while to get set up here because it's got to have an old version of Ruby installed and so on. But yeah, I mean the thing I would be looking for. I mean I would have thought here that we could create a category like new is supposed to only create some sort of empty category item. Right. But maybe there's. But this is the thing with the legacy code that it may have other sorts of things, stuck into it in different places that causes it to try and do some other stuff, and then as a result, it's falling.
Well, we're thinking that it's one of those, the active record lifecycle hooks.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, it's failing somewhere in there. It's not failing anywhere that you can see directly.
But so
notice, notice it validates presence of name. That's the first.
And it's got validates uniqueness of name on create there, which is maybe slightly odd from my point of view. But I guess you're bringing this issue to me. You don't have a copy of the error message somewhere?
Well, the thing is, I was doing this with students, and I was looking at their screens.
Okay. All right.
Which is why I'm asking Marvin if he could bring his up.
Marvin, why don't you just run Rails console there and try and create a new category? Like.
Okay, let me. So I'm.
Just type Rails C in exactly where you.
Yeah, in the terminal.
In the terminal.
Doesn't he have to CD into your?
Right. If he's got multiple projects in the same space, there you go.
Right.
And you can just do Rails C. It doesn't have to be the full Word console. But so that may then take a little bit of time to load. I'm busy. I guess while we're waiting for that to come up, we'll just look at. So I think that was maybe, what was the word? Was it a facetious point about clarifying what the agenda does there? Anyway, while we're back, it's loaded up. So why don't you just write category.new in there, with category with like that, and see what happens. Just hit return. So we can clearly create category new. Of course, if you tried to, I mean, you can now, if you do underscore is equal to C, then we can get a reference to that category. Type an underscore space equals C return. So we've now got that. Sorry. Otherwise, no, it should be the other way around. I would hit up twice now. So I got it the wrong way. I should have the C is equal to underscore. But it won't work now because we've lost the underscore refers to the previous thing. It won't work now because you'll need to do it do like a C equals category.new. Sorry, there we go. And then you could try doing this like a C save. And we would expect, and it's gone false. Does he do a C save exclamation? Well, that's interesting. So, I guess actually C will now have validation errors on it. So you could do like C dot errors or whatever it is.
Errors, yeah.
There we go. So I mean that's sort of what we would expect.
That's the message. That's the message.
Right. But so that's because the name is blank that you can't save it there. So then what's the trouble?
Do you want to try running it live, Marvin, without the params nil? Yeah, maybe comment out that line and then write it without the params category.
Yes.
Right.
And then, so have you got like an acceptance test, or you're going to run it through the interface?
So did you want to do like a run one of the test suites, or?
Well, did you, or did someone else have a cucumber test on this?
I mean, we all had. Yeah, we wrote a couple of.
Yeah, well, just run it through your tests. It should fail. At least if it's the set I remember. I think it was in your group.
But so I think what we're seeing there is, in principle, we can call category.new without that immediately leading to an error. Okay, so I've got the I have to do gem install bundle. I've got the correct version of Ruby installed on my machine now. Okay, so there we go. Validation failed. Name can't be blank. Okay, but so you're saying then if you add that back in, if you put the params category in there, then it will save and
yeah, and I mean, notice that we're filling in the stuff on the form.
right.
So we're on the new category page, and then we fill in the stuff on the form.
Okay. Right.
And
yeah. Okay. So then that passes without it. So if we put a bybug or a debug statement in after if params ID equals nil. Which one are you using, Marvin? Are you using bybug or debugger?
Wouldn't this be the older version?
You're right. It would be debugger. So,
debugger. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, great. So then let's go on to line 30, and in the beginning of that code block, let's put a debugger in there.
Yeah.
What exactly do you
need to type the word debugger. So if you hit go to the end of line 30 and hit return.
Remember from chapter 4.
And then type the word debugger. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, only we were using bybug.
Right. So yeah, just save that file. And what I would say is it's really important here that you run only one test, only one scenario, and not all of the scenarios. So you need to work out, like, which was the scenario that failed last time? You know, and so actually there in red it will say there, features, create category feature. So copy it with the line number. So so include the 10 there, and now run exactly that from the command line. And so by running the single scenario, we ensure that we don't encounter the debugger on multiple occasions, like one for each test. It's quite important. So hopefully now that will stop at that point, and then when we stop at that point, we will want to type the word params and see. Okay, so the fact that that hasn't stopped on that debugger line there, I guess it could mean one of two things: either that it's not reaching that point in the code, which would seem unlikely if that were possible, or that the debugger is not included in the gem file. So you could just go and have a quick
save the file, right? Yeah, no, it looks like it's...
well, the debugger again might not be in there. So if we have a look in the gem file, check that debugger is in there in at least in the develop environment.
Right.
So you could just do Control F in there for and search for the debugger.
Yeah.
And it's got Ruby debug. Yeah, so I think Ruby debug 19's. You add the gem debugger in there as well. After where it says Ruby debug 19, add the word gem. Yeah.
Debugger.
And then save that, and then you'll need to do bundle from the command line.
Yeah. Now, when we did it, we just threw in some instrumentation, and
What about?
that's how we went about it.
Yeah, go on, Richard.
Yeah, I mean, what about just moving the debugger out of the if statement to make sure that it's?
Well, we know that it failed on the. That's another thing that we certainly could do, Richard. But we know that exactly that thing failed last time because of a change we made at that point.
Right, but just to see that the debugger's really getting hit and how it.
Absolutely, that was the first of the two things that I was saying could be the case. But I think that we'll check that next. But we
okay.
Right.
Okay.
But so now if we run again, then hopefully the debugger will actually catch. It's interesting that it ignored it the previous time around. Richard is of course completely right that it may mean that we're not hitting that piece of code. But again, as I say, that seems unlikely because of the edit at that point. So there, and maybe what does it say now? It says the debugger. Scroll up a little bit.
Yeah, scroll up.
It's going to say probably that it hasn't got the debugger. I think what we will need. What does it say there? Undefined. Oh, is there?
Dependencies.
Undefined simple Ruby current thread.
What? That one I haven't seen before.
No. I guess maybe we're supposed to be using
this is
an
odd.
even. Yeah, I think we may have to remove the Ruby debug 19.
Right.
Oh. Yeah. This is very odd.
I mean, you were saying before, Rose, that you put in instrumentation in there. I'm always slightly suspicious of the instrumentation.
So do we just bundle again after taking
that?
that?
Yeah, just bundle again. And
yeah. So you were saying about instrumentation?
Yeah, is that I'm always suspicious of like put statements or logging or what have you, and it often you end up with this very slow debug cycle in as much as you print something out and then you get some information and then you're like, oh, I need some other information, and then you have to put some more stuff in and then rerun it again. Whereas if you can hook it on the debugger, then you can sort of interactively explore the issue. And exactly, there we go. So now let's type params here. There we go. So now I actually can't see that because of the position. Could you possibly move?
Yeah, scroll it up a little bit.
Well, rather than scroll it up, could you even adjust your screen size there, Marvin, so that the browser is not going to the very bottom of the screen?
Right. You're right. Right.
Yeah. So if you could, are you
the bottom up?
Are you sharing?
Change it to the window.
Pull the tab up to the top.
Or if you share the whole screen. And then you can change the size of the. That's it, exactly. There we go. Okay. Oh, okay. So params in there has nothing.
There's no. Yes, that's the point. When I put instrumentation in, what I was doing was let's look at params. Okay. Nothing there.
Okay, and if you then put in if you type params like square bracket colon category.
Mm-hmm.
And return, that gives us a nil. Okay, so that's nil.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's bizarre.
We could not determine why it should work that way.
Make any difference? That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now the one thing I forgot to try because we kind of ran out of time was. Is this only an issue if you have validation? Because I mean, it's failing on the validation. In other words, if you if you commented out the validation, would it go through cleanly? I mean, it just to kind of pinpoint where to look for what's going on. In other words,
I would also say, but I think I have another theory though. Before this, can you go back in here, Marvin, and type C in the debugger? Because I wonder if it hits this point more than once. So if you
it will.
Right, and on that, well, the question is, will params be nil on both occasions? So that it's now hit it again. Type params now. Aha.
Yeah. After it goes through the form, it has a value.
Right. But so this is the point: is the reason that you have to have params category in there right, is because on the second pass, right, of coming through here, like the reason that it's failing the validation is not because you're trying to create category new with nil. It's failing on the second occasion that you come through, where if you don't have params category, then none of the information from the form has been pulled into the category.
Oh, boy, that is kind of crazy.
If you stop the debugger right after category new, I think it's not taking in params category; it's putting out to params category. After
I would. You might be right. I would think not. I mean, we can test that hypothesis, but I would say that part of this is like it's typo, so it's like old and gnarly code. It shouldn't, in the normal course of things, necessarily cut. Well, I think actually, you've got two stages. So one, you come through and you're loading up the form,
right?
And so when you're loading up the form, this is sort of run once with a blank object, right? And that's what this category new the first time is being created. The second time around, it's then the submission of the form, and it comes back through this code the second time, and on that second occasion, that's when the params category is full. If that makes sense. So I mean,
that does make sense. It's just it's the nature of the fact that they've got this hitting the same method several times.
Which is sort of what they've got there is that they've got they've dried it out in a certain way, and I think that's an inappropriate drawing, and I mean it's a very common thing to see in lots of code bases, which is an attempt to dry things out. But of course, when you dry things out to reduce replication, you introduce dependencies.
They didn't think about separation of concerns at all.
Well, indeed, and that's its legacy code, and that's Armando and Dave have taught us a lesson.
Yes.
But I want to show you one more. If you hit continue now, Marvin. Let's just go back, and I think exactly, and you can see it coming in through a third time. So hit C again, just single C. It's fine. Move on. But so now, if you run it again,
now it passes.
Yeah, if you run it again, so just hit up, and run it again. What we can also do with the debugger, and this is why I like the debugger, because you can. You were just coming up with the theory there, Marvin, about it when the params became injected. So the other thing is we can actually step through individual lines of code, and we can check that. So we can come in, and it gets hopefully it'll get us onto the first block.
Couldn't we also take away the argument and step through it and see
we can also
exactly where it fails?
Yeah. So let's do just do params now here, params. And so here there's nothing there. Now what we can do now is to test your theory, Marvin, is we can just type the character N. Right. So that's going to move us on to and hit return. Yeah, that's going to remove. It's moved us on. I guess actually it's now you could. I wonder if we're still in scope. You could type params again. So it's just finished that through. So we can see here that params is still the same.
The same, yeah.
Right. So now if we do C again, we can go on. We come back. Let's do params again. So this is the second time that we're coming in.
The second time.
Yeah. So it's good. If you scroll up a little bit, you can actually see in between these two things. You can see the other, like we've got given I'm on the new category page, and I fill in category name and movies, and I fill in category description. So we can see that this is, the point here that we've got that. And then you can type N again, and we can step over that line. So we will run the line at category equals category new params categories, and then we can type params again, and we can see that params will be the same set of those things. So we can sort of see that there was two separate requests that came through, and params was a constant in the background of both of those requests. And in the first case, there was nothing, and in the second case, there was something. And I think what we would see, Rose, and we test it specifically, if you remove that params category, what you'll find is that basically, in the first case it comes through and params is empty, and it doesn't make any difference. The second time it comes through, just prior to it doing a thing, it's not going to have pulled the submission from the form into the active record object.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. Yeah. I mean, I see now. It's because it's a dual-purpose line of code. Right. Basically.
Yeah.
So.
But I think what we can also maybe see here is how I mean, I think that the interesting. I'm always trying to get people to use the debugger more. I think it takes several, pairing sessions of using the debugger to get familiar with it, and it really can be extremely powerful in terms of.
Yeah. Can I? I don't even know if to connect it back that managing distributed teams course where you're talking about using tools and Hangouts.
Yeah.
Do you do anything like this? I mean, I think this is instructive, not so much in solving the problem, but just exactly like here's the utility of the debugger, and I that's sort of the background that my workflow, and I try and get students, and it's like, they sort of push it off.
Yeah, I think it's difficult. It's like I think people get into they often might have been learning Java as their first language, and they've been using like system out println, and they've kind of got into a sort of a comfort zone with their process of that, and adopting a new process to help you solve the things is quite hard. What I've seen so much over the years is there's a tendency to sort of like make theories and then sort of try random changes, and the real key is to be trying to only. It's a bit like what Sherlock Holmes says is that theorizing in the absence of data leads you to very dangerous conclusions. And so,
it's almost I mean, my little amending would be that as I'm using the debugger, I have a theory in my mind. So every time I type continue or next or this or look at the value of a variable, it's like I know what I'm expecting, and then so often something different happens, and then I learn something.
Well, that's right, and you've got to be any little theory that you make, you then immediately test if you possibly can.
Right, and it's so easy in the debugger. The time is just shrunk.
Yeah, I think once you're comfortable with that workflow, it saves extraordinary amounts of time. I was just gonna say, Marvin, do you want to just hit continue again there in the debugger? I was just thinking of something else. What I'm kind of intrigued about is why it's coming through there twice. I just wanted to have a look at your.
It's because of new or edit. If you
I understand new or edit, but I'm interested in connecting it to which actions in the acceptance test. So I was just
okay.
If you finish up the run there, Marvin,
could you do a stack trace there to see what's at a high level?
Well, I think you can. I mean, you can type help there. Marvin may be suffering from us telling him different things. I think that the stack trace that we're now onto like maybe a third pass through there. But I was interested as well in seeing the. I would just hit continue there, Marvin, and let's get out of that thing. What I would just do is, shall we just comment out lines 31 and 32 and bring in line 33? I'm just interested in seeing a run of the system again. With the actual stat trace that we originally got. So let's say that this is the failing state. So now if we let's just run this one test again, exactly number 10, just that single one. I think the ability to run the specific scenarios or the specific RSpec it blocks is also extraordinarily important in terms of having a manageable terminal and being able to see this stuff. So to Richard's point, and I think I may be misremembering, but I do cover a process of using the debugger like this in the AV102 course. I'm going to be reviewing that for updating it. But so if we actually have a look at the stack trace in this now, so you can just just scroll up to the top so we can see all of the green steps, Marvin. So what it's doing, so it's got, okay, so the first thing it's doing, it's coming in, it's actually saying, okay, so there's given the blog is set up and I'm logged into the admin panel, which may have been the place where we have the first pass through it. And then we've got given I am on the new category page, and I fill in the name with movies, and I fill in the category description with posts about movies. Now, it may have been and then we've got validation failed, name can't be blank, categories controller 56, 56, 42, 41, yeah. And so if we just look at those, can we look up those lines? So like categories controller, I would, if you increase the width of the screen slightly, we'll get like a slightly more space in the terminal, I think. There we go, yeah. And yeah, scroll up and it'll all be on single lines. So let's just like look back through those categories controller, the line 5. That's in edit. Okay, so this is right. This is the place where they've hooked up edit to be kind of new or edit, and we can see in this on line 9 they've done that with the same thing with new. So edit and new have been cross-wired to go to the same place. So then we've got line 41. coming through the snap trace there. Respond to format. That's if it's a post. So yeah, this is the point at which the lines above have already been run, and it's coming through and it's hitting there. What does it do? It goes 41, 42, save category, and then it jumps down to line 56. And if category save, and then that's the point at which the error occurs. Yeah. So I think that the interesting thing that what you had with your instrumentation previously, Rose, is because it was passing through it twice, the instrumentation that you was printing out and saying it was nil, when in fact that instrumentation was related to not the actual
actually,
error trace.
we saw it be nil, then we saw it filled with stuff, and then but it still seemed very puzzling how it would work originally when the stuff you were sending it didn't exist. I mean, we knew that after the form, and we could see it via the instrumentation that it was getting filled. But how did it work that you could send it an argument that didn't exist to begin with?
Yeah, well, and I think there, for example, Marvin, if you type Rails C, so to get like a Rails console, I mean, we can pass it. We can do like C equals category.new nil, and it will,
Yeah, it just seemed very strange that you didn't have to handle those separately.
Right, but does it all now make sense that we've gone through it? So here we can do like C equals category.new nil.
Yeah. And it'll get through the first part, but it won't get through the next part.
And I mean, I'm not entirely sure here, but there's this general thing of Rails that when you want to pop up the initial page, you need to have kind of like like for the new, you need to have like an empty instance variable for the thing in order for the form to populate correctly. Do you know what I mean?
Right. But I mean, usually you don't see that you're sending it something.
I think usually you do see like there's a like if you had a category controller, usually in the new block would have like @category equals category new, right? That's a fairly common idiom.
Yeah, but I'm saying you wouldn't be passing it anything.
No.
You
wouldn't.
I mean, I think the whole thing we got hung up in is, thinking that this indicates that there is something you're sending it at first, when in fact you're not.
Indeed.
And that's actually okay.
Yeah, and so I mean, if we
Which
come back,
seems odd.
Yeah, I mean, I think what it comes back to over here, if I'm just trying to think of a place where it would be good to write it, but let's put it actually back into the agenda thing. So I think here is that what we've got is the standard thing in a Rails controller. We would have two separate methods, like so we'd have category equals category like this would be there, and then we would have def edit, and we would have category equals category, like and I guess we'd find it first, wouldn't we, by like params ID, and then we would have something like @category save with attributes or whatever it is. I can't remember the syntax of these things now, but it's like the params. Oh, I don't know. Whatever.
But I mean that's what we would expect to see, but it's all part and parcel of that very badly done drying out.
Sure. Well, or as I say, the fact that they've dried out between these two things has made that confusing. Indeed.
Yeah. Now, can you look at my screen really quickly?
Sure.
Okay, so here's the private instructor community resources.
Yep.
And now if I want to upload my file, and everything but the very last part is done. The part where you're doing the extra stuff for more coverage. Yeah. So I choose my file. Okay, hold on. And I've got an HTML version. Will that work?
I've no idea. Let's find out.
Okay. Open.
Okay.
And
There's the green commit changes button at the bottom.
Okay. Here we go. Okay, there it is. I have it in Word. I have a PDF. I have it in this form. Do you want to look at it?
Well,
just to see that it's okay.
Yeah, I mean, you can click on it to see what happens to it. I mean, maybe the HTML. I mean, maybe upload the PDF as well, and then.
Yeah, I'm thinking this is.
Or I would think the Word.
Possibly, yeah. I mean, I would just throw all of them in there. It's our place. It's our happy.
Yeah. Okay. I don't think this is going to work. It looks okay on my
Yeah, but leave it there. Leave it there. Don't just leave. It's all good. So yeah, if you've got time to throw in the PDF and the Word as well, as Richard says, the Word might be
yeah, I'll do the Word.
Yeah,
right.
Great. Excellent, thank you. Yes, love to see that Engine Rise go through. So, yeah, apologies for the confusion between there being agenda items and notes from last week. This is something that because Rich and I might talk about now. I was just going to say, as sort of a possibly closing item, I mean, we had talked in one of the pre-meeting sessions about, you know, the function of criticism in learning, silence, responding, overloading, blocking. I've been excited about these ideas recently. I was interesting. Richard was saying how much he wanted to be criticized because that's so valuable for learning, which I absolutely agree with. I think the interesting point is that I think something that I have done badly in the past in many different areas is be too defensive when receiving criticism. And I think that I've boiled down some of my recent learnings to these two phrases that I think if you strongly dispute people's criticisms of you, and necessarily this is also true of, or even if it's not a criticism, even when, well, I'll say this one first. If you strongly dispute people's criticisms of you, they may well end up being disincentivized to criticize you in future. So it's almost actually, if you strongly dispute anything that people say, like their suggestions, their what have you, there's, although you might well be right, you might be like 100% factually correct. It almost doesn't matter. I think what I've really learned is that the fierceness of your dispute can lead to you, you know, disincentivizing people, and then you don't receive that potentially valuable input in the future. And that those fierce debates can have the side effect of putting off others from participating. So that's kind of a general learning from me. I don't know if that resonates with anybody or makes any sense.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Sounds
good. And by
the issue is, you know, on the disputing, you know, I think in my experience, it's more explaining. In other words, yes, someone is criticizing or pointing something out, but you're saying, well, yes, but this is all like the reason, and this, and
right.
You know, sometimes that's, I mean, but it's tough because sometimes that's a nuance that's important, and sometimes it's like it has the effect you're talking about.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I think you're absolutely, it's this dispute we could sort of like defend, explain. There is sometimes you concede, yes, I did that wrong, but the reason I did that was this and this and this and this. And I think that I guess the real trick with human communication and like life in general is working out when is it really important to make that explanation, and when is it better to say that's an excellent point, thank you, and sort of you know, and then
And the reality is that you're going to go down a path, and it's dynamic because at each sentence you type, you got to look at the, you know, just like almost teaching a person, you know, when are you losing them, and when is it like, you know, continuing to engage, and it's a constant monitoring. That's when we'll have real artificial intelligence, when we can really sort of monitor the feedback.
Absolutely.
Don't give me that error again, Ruby. I've seen that enough times.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone, for working through this legacy thing with me. I really appreciate it.
It was good.
It was very puzzling, and I feel that we had a very productive discussion. So again, thank you.
Great stuff. Great stuff. So I think unless there's anything else that anybody has that we want to, you know, work on. I guess maybe Richard and I should. Have you got 10 minutes now, Richard? Or
well, you know, we'll see. Well,
yeah,
I have at least 5, and if you're good, I'll give you another 5.
Okay.
I have a couple of comments I want to make while we're on here. Just really quick.
Please, Janet, go ahead. Yes.
Well, one is I thought the experience of watching people go through debugging a problem was interesting, and I wonder if this might be something to maybe make available to our students at some point.
Yes. Yes.
Right, that was associated with my comment about his other course to put like a little troubleshooting kind of thing. It doesn't matter what the problem is.
And the second thing I want to bring up, and maybe that'll be something to add for next week, is I think it'd be useful to do a survey at this point about who is using this class material and what parts they're using. Right, like who's doing a team project, which people are using, which videos. You know, I'm not using the SPOC 2 homeworks because the workload was just too much for the students.
Sure.
So I think, and I don't know whether, you know, that makes sense for one of us to do that or whether that should come from a more official place, but I think it would be really valuable, I think, for everybody, because I know there's a lot of people on the lists who aren't participating in this call, right?
Right, sure.
You know, and I think there's even more people who maybe are using the book but not the SPOCs, or you know, or what. And I just think, and we've got the two lists. There's the BetaSaaSers, and then there's the other list. And then there might even be other people, say on the SIGC list or something, who we might want to get in touch with, because I think this could be useful to just sort of have. It'd be useful to have the names. It'd be useful to have the data.
Yes.
Right. If people aren't using a part of the class, it might be good to find out, you know, why.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, great suggestions, Janet. Thank you.
That is a good idea. By the way, Richard, if you look at my screen, the various versions of that are there now. So, you know, feel free to pull something out if you find it useful.
We can't see them on your screen at the moment, Rose, because we're on just the upload. Oh, I think you might need to click commit changes before you leave that page. Oh dear.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
I think you may need to do
it again.
You may need to do that. Well, if you click on the Instruct Community Resources main repo, and we'll see if they uploaded or not. And I think that they're not. So I think if you go back to that, if you upload file, that's
interesting. So it doesn't warn you that there's pending. It lets you leave a page while there's pending commits.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, well, that's we could submit that as a bug report for GitHub for the experience.
Yeah. Or the forget to commit fulls. Yeah, like me.
Well, they've got a model there that's, I mean, really, in some ways, it would make more sense for it to, as soon as you've added the file, to then hit the to also commit for you. But it's based on this whole. It's based on a different model. Mental models. There we go. I'm just going to check that I've captured everything that Janet said, which was a survey about which instructors are using what components of the course, and particularly interested to hear from others who are not participating in the calls or just using the textbook or on various of the mailing lists.
And why?
The BetaSaaSers. We have the instructors one, and then you even mentioned the 6C thing, and we've got then, should this survey come from a higher authority? Yes. Yes.
And I can put one together that has the data I want to know, but I think that this may actually be something that.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I mean, I think if you wanted to put one together that had the data that you were interested in, then I could maybe then potentially build on that and add some more things in, and then get it sent out and have it come from Dave and Armando. So yeah, if you've got time for it, do even if it's just a list of questions, the things that you'd like to know, then that's a great starting point. So starting list of questions for instructor survey. Yeah. Sure, if you're into that, that's great. Yes. Yes. I was just going to go and mention that connect this point here about the debugging demo is, as Richard said, that would be great in the AV102 course. We do have that. It is the kind of thing that I have had in the I've done these homework help videos before that are now that went out of date with the thing. So I guess if I'm feeling spry, is that the word? If I'm feeling spry, sure. Then if I redo the homework help videos, I often demo the debug thing in there because I love it so much.
That would be great.
But, I guess it's all working out how the most effective use of my. I guess the priority for me will be actually making the homeworks themselves consistent, and if I can get that done with time to spare, then I'll follow that up with some additional homework help videos. Great, fantastic suggestions, Janet. And Rose there, I guess, yeah, looks like that's happening. I'll put the done in there. So Richard, did we want to have a little chat about? I guess you're on call. You may be called away at any moment. But so, did you want to share your screen and like talk about this process of? I mean, I guess there's like reviewing, for example, the textbook. There's reviewing the what's it called? Oh, go on, brain. The actual homeworks themselves that are now in GitHub. Did you want to like step through? If you want to share your screen and step through a process and
Oh gosh, I'm not. I mean,
you're not. Yeah.
I can.
Up to you. Up to
you. I mean, I probably will fumble for 30 seconds for sharing the screen. I'm not sure that there's going to be a benefit right now.
No, okay.
Unless,
okay.
Okay, but
yeah, I mean.
Oh gosh, I'm just trying
what you were. Well, don't worry about the sharing screen too much. What you were talking about last week was this process of like you previously built a editing system where you were tagging different kinds of changes as you know,
right. So
different kinds of things, and I guess it's like, so for example, we've got here the homework refactoring legacy code thing here, and you might be, let's say, working through this and thinking, okay, my students.
Right. Okay, so just an example, right? So yeah, you see how it says the due date, right? I might change that due date, but that's just for me. I don't need to share that with anyone.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Right. Although this is one where they're just like totally outdated as far as I'm concerned. These should be removed from. They shouldn't be.
Right. I mean that's only a good example because that was up there. Obviously, there will be things like that. You know, I might. Like in a previous thing, I created a fork that I asked my students to branch from.
Right.
So
right.
that was a change that I made to the README. You know, but I didn't want that to go back.
Yeah. So I mean,
but once I'd done that fork, then I'm going in and I see a typo. And so, okay, now that typo, yeah, I fix it, but that I do want to reflect back.
Yeah, so I guess we've got a situation here where, I mean, the way that I would manage that through the GitHub interface here is, so I've just taken a fork here, and so I'm going to go into the README, and I might start, and I'm like, well, let's imagine it's for my class, and it's like, okay, maybe these are, so this I'm going to say, right, no, that's like, and then what I would do is, having made that change, I would go down here and I would say, like, remove dates. And I could, in principle, introduce my own scheme here, which I'd say is like for my class, and I commit those changes there, right? And then let's say, so now it's given me a commit ID that's associated with that. So having made that change, and then I'm like, you're struggling as a pair, but you don't have to. And like, let's say that I have decided in my class you must do this as a pair, like on pain of you must do this as a pair.
But that's all right, and those are all peculiar to your class.
Right. Or let's say, we've already got one peculiar to my class, haven't we? I mean, maybe let's put that back. That was a bad example. But yeah, so let's see if we can find. We encourage you to try working with someone who type as a blogging engine written Rails.
Imagine now there's a typo that you found in there.
Or we've one here, which is like KLOC. They don't know what KLOC is, which is like, oh no, I guess they must know. Yeah, can we find a typo? Expression markup. Yeah, so for example, here we might say that, okay, like this would be better if there was a new line there. Yeah, so we could just say that it's like improve layout. But maybe we wanted to reflect back. Yeah.
Right. But that contained changes that you made that were just for you.
Yeah. So now if we go back to this and we're in my thing and we've got these commits. So what I sort of want to be able to do is send a pull request back based upon this commit and not on the others. And now the way that I would.
Okay. Wait a second. I thought you did two changes there. I thought you added that line.
I did, but I removed the dates and I added the. Well, I undid the additional. But so basically, I've got.
Okay. You did right. I understand. You did something at the beginning, but that you're saying you undid that.
Yeah. So I did my remove dates operation.
Okay.
and then I thought, and then I realized too late that actually you must pair on pain of death is a similar sort of thing, like specific to my class. But so this improved layout, is something I want to reflect back. So what I would sort of want to do in this situation is what I would like to do is pass this commit back, but not this one. And so what I would do as a sort of a Git user is I could easily, from the command line, cherry pick this commit and create a pull request based on that. I was just looking to see if there's some simple way to do that from the interface here within GitHub, but it looks like there isn't. But if you're doing this process and you're going through and you're making the individual commits there with appropriate things, possibly even with your own like tags of then I can easily come and grab this and create pull requests for you that go back to the original thing.
Right. And my issue is, I guess what I'm saying is that the overhead that you're describing is what's necessary, and what's happening, like when you're just, like in this example, when you're saying, okay, here's one change, here's another change, make an individual commit, fine, but what's happening is I'm reading through the whole thing. Usually these readmes are long. I don't know what I'm going to encounter.
Oh, sure.
And really what it requires is sort of like, in my understanding of even what you're saying, it would require like several passes to say, okay, I'm going to go through, I have to remember that change there because I'm going to want to do that later when I'm in a pass where I'm doing typo kinds of things. Do you see what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying, although I'm not necessarily agreeing with it, in as much as I would have thought that, it's not that you need to take one pass and then do one kind of thing and another pass and do another kind of thing. What I'm saying is, like, I could carry on making individual changes here.
And you're saying,
and I would be mixing them. Like an individual change might be, this is one for my students only. Another one, this is like some people might want it or they might not, or this is just a typo. But like, what I would be doing at the rather than making a series of changes in here, like A and then B and then C, like at the point of having made a single change, I would consider, and I would then do an individual commit for it, and then and possibly, introduce a scheme there. So this is like now
a coding scheme. Right, that's interesting. And then the question is how. Right, I see how that could work.
UNCC, or I would say, send back, or whatever. And then you could, having done it, and just individually, you could say, hey Sam, I've made a lot of changes. The ones with at SaaSbook, these are the ones or let's say at SaaS, they're the ones I think should. Can you figure out a way to pull them back in, and I'll just sort it out for you. I will be your GitHub interface to make it. As long as the individual commits are, those individual things, it's all
right. And I do have, I do have a concern about that. In other words, as I'm doing this, will the overhead of doing the commit? In other words, if I can have like a little sort of button off the side without interrupting my workflow, that might work. But I'm concerned, especially when I'm dealing with these long readmes, that committing every time I add a comma, make a commit in this, and that's really
well,
the issue that I'm talking about.
Absolutely. But what I would say is that that fundamentally, though, each time you make a change, you still need to make that assessment of what kind of thing it is, right?
Yes. And I have that in my head at that time.
And you have it at that head at that time. So it would seem like that's a good. If you look at it in the edit view here, the commit thing is just down there, right? If we go back to the README and I'm in the edit mode here, like the commit thing is just here. So you're kind of like you're scrolling through here, you're making changes or whatever. You've done a thing. Like it's merely a question of typing in. You could even not describe it. You could just do this is for UNCC.
A little coding thing. Yeah, exactly.
Just like that, or just this is to go back. This is going to be SaaS, and then you hit this green button, and refresh the page, and you're back in. So
do I lose my context at that point?
Well, should we just do it? Let's have a look. I'll put in a formatting one here. So I'm going to say let's say that we decided there's a formatting. We've decided that the formatting here would be much better if we had these star symbols at the beginning of each line, and so wrong, like that. And then we might say, okay, this is a at SAR. So this is like, I think, my great stuff that people would like. And then we'll commit those changes. And it will take you here. I mean, you can then just sort of hit back.
And then I got to go back.
You got to hit, I mean, the back button. I mean, yeah, I mean,
maybe.
Actually, and probably actually the back button is the wrong thing to do, is that we should then, check that the change looks the way that you want, and then you would need to hit edit again, and you would need to scroll to the appropriate place. So yeah, it certainly could break up your flow. Not ideal. Yeah, in the ideal world, you'd be able to just sort of do it, and you could like even just like select that bit, and you could kind of right click on it, and you would say, oh, that was a SAS class.
Exactly right. I mean, I sort of want like a subcommit as I'm making this commit. I want to say, here's a change and tag it. Here's a change and tag it without interrupting my flow and context. And all I'm saying is that the easier and less painful and less overhead that you make these kinds of processes, the more people will abide by them. And I find myself, I'm just disappointed in myself because I find myself like going through this and not sharing my good changes with the rest of the world just because, it's 11 o'clock at night and I'm just trying to get this thing out.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally get that. Yeah. So, I mean, I think that and we're in the, so you could, I think with the GitHub interface, that's the, that's the workflow. I mean, you could be doing it from the command line. Now, the interesting thing actually is, if you were doing it from the command line, if I now, so the alternative here, so if we go now to this thing, and if I pulled out now, let me go to here and go there, and have I got a Tansaku? Let's do dear Tansaku and git clone there. So you could use, you're going to work on it offline or what have you. I mean, the other way to achieve the thing that you're describing, if I now bring up a text editor,
got
like this. And I've got my text editor. How do I turn that to the top, like the top half of the screen and that one, the bottom half of the screen, like so. So I could be operating like this. So I've got my README, and so here I'm working through, and I've done that thing. In part one, you're going to do part two, getting set up. I say all that. There's a top. Okay, like that's here's a little formatting thing that I want to improve, right? In this context here, you can now see the change there. Oh, hold on. We'll save it, of course. We can do git status there. I can then do git commit -am here, and just do my @ so this is one I want to share back. This. I do that, it's done, and I carry on, and I have my context. Exactly. So if you're willing to set yourself up with this, get your favorite text editor there.
So I say, okay, let me save it, commit each one, and I tag each one, and then can I sort of cherry pick, like based on some kind of tag? I assume I can figure something.
Well, yeah. So I mean, what I've done there is, if we now just get the git hit there, so like this one, you can see I've kind of, I mean, this is there is a whole git tagging scheme. And in this context, I've just actually put, a tag in the commit, and almost in terms of not breaking your flow, I would almost say just having the commit message with the tag. But if we go and look at, we can have git tags, which in principle would make my life easier because then I can pull them out without having to review the things. So if we have the git tags, we can. I think, can we do that in the git tag? I think it has to be separate. The thing with the git tag is that it would mean two commands from here. I mean, you could set them up with like this. So you could do git
because thing. I need to do the commit. Because the tag has to be on a commit.
So this is like we've got RI's awesome change, and then I mean you could kind of get set up with a thing here, and then to do the tag, and then you're gonna git tag -l like that, and then like this. So let's, if we go, why don't I get out of the way?
And I can't, okay, so you're doing it in one line, okay.
That would, because I so love being to hit up and down and get back to the
thing. Yeah, I'm with you.
Go on down there, and then we can say this is, I mean, here, let's look at this. So we've got like, let's, it should be, let's shell script there and say, that should have like a little those symbols there, like this, boom, 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 like that. And then I could do this, and then so Yeah. I've probably done the wrong syntax for that one.
Okay. And the reality would be
creating tags. Go on.
Except for typos and my personal stuff, except the stuff that's like sort of suggestions and debatable, then I would have the ability to sort of back arrow and put more in the commit message as to sort of the issue and suggestion.
Yeah. I don't know, just do it like this tag. The messages. I don't do message for the tag. I mean, I think the thing that the tag is going to end up. Oh right, I can probably get. I'm here now. Sorry, I'm getting like working out what the ideal fatal no tag message. So apparently -m. Could we have to? It has to like. I don't care. There we go. All right. There we go. So now -l. There we go. Now we have a SAS tag. I mean, I'm not sure if we might have to like work out exactly what, because I think the tags are generally designed to kind of like tag a specific commit as being like this is a particular release version, rather than tagging a set of commits as being related to each other. I mean, we could just have a quick look at that. So we've got like, oh yeah, so that removing due date. So that would be like, let's remove that, and then we could say here. So this is like, now I'd go back up and I'd say, okay, this is a UNC. I mean, the annoying thing there is that we don't the tag comments, and this is like another RI awesome change. So let's do that. Git tag -l. Yeah, so we now have those two things. I guess what I want to see is does it blow up if we now find another one. You should have the following. Yeah, so these things. This would be like a general commit, like so. Specs to verify modifications. You should have the following, and that. All the above committed. Right. So that would be now. So another awesome change, and this is going to be a SAS one that we send back. What does it say? Yeah. So actually, I think that yeah, I had a feeling this was the case. I think the way that the GitHub's or Git's tags is about having like a single unique tag on a thing. So I think
so that's not relevant.
Probably, and actually, as we can see, we end up here with kind of rather a convoluted thing where you have to tell. I would say it's probably simpler for like if you just put if you just had like a thing like this in there, then for me personally, I could just do like git hist, and then I can do grep autumn, and I can see the list of these, and I can make a pull request out of the ones that I need. So
interesting. Okay, I'm actually feeling like a little vindicated in the sense that even though like I'm agreeing with everything that you're saying, that it is not trivial. It's not trivial, especially if one is on a clock. Like I said, like what I'd like to do is I would take almost like a paper copy of it, right, and edit it, and then if I could do it in like 3 passes, that would also that probably would almost be more efficient than this, but it would require a little bit more overhead.
I think having played with it, I would have said now is having gone through some of these variations. I would have said that what we've got now is a process. At least, I mean, if I was doing this now for my own class, like if I make that delete there, I would then say that having this is like basically this. It would be this. So basically, I've done it. I've made the change. I've got in my head what it is. I basically hit up on the keyboard here. I edit the tag to be correct. I do that, and I haven't lost my place. So
yeah, that's decent.
I would say that's getting pretty close.
It's getting close, yeah. And then what happens when I hit the wrong commit?
Well,
the wrong reason, then I gotta,
absolutely. Well, I mean, and then the ultimate thing is, would be custom software to support the process, and then the overhead of making that versus the benefits that we would get.
Okay. Well, then we have another potential project for
absolutely. Yes, I mean, in principle, yeah, I mean, I can imagine actually probably things like Sublime. What text editor do you tend to be using if you're working offline?
Did you say offline or online?
Offline. If you're on the.
I mean, in the back in the day, I was an Emacs user, and I'm still comfortable, but I haven't been using that in.
What do you use recently as your basic text editor on the like if you've got code on the local machine, what do you edit it with?
Yeah, I mean, I've been using Cloud9 recently, so I haven't been.
Yeah. I mean,
it would be and if I was really going to do some work, it would be Emacs.
Yeah, well, I would imagine that you could have an Emacs thing where basically you could create a macro in Emacs that basically committed, with you could have a hotkey to do an S or a whatever and do a commit for a change with the default message.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Anyway, interesting exploring that. I'm not sure what the anyway, interesting to explore. I think we've had a fun time, have we not?
Absolutely.
Here we go.
Richard, I finally got that stuff committed and up there. If you want to take a look on my screen, yeah.
Well done, Rose.
Where is that in the Google Hangouts? Don't you have that applause little icon that you can?
Yeah, really.
So that was I was trying to imagine huge crowds of people applauding. Guys, good stuff. I think I better get on to other things now.
Absolutely.
I think we've got through that.
Sure.
Have a great weekend, and I'll catch up with you again next week. Yeah.
Very
Thanks,
good.
Sam.
All right.
Thanks.
Bye for now. Take care.